Did you know millions of Americans live with debt they cannot control? That's why I developed this unique new program for managing your debt. It's called Don't Buy Stuff You Cannot Afford.
Oh, let me see that. If you don't have any money, you should not buy anything. Sounds interesting.
Sounds confusing.
I don't know, honey. This makes a lot of sense. There's a whole section here on how to buy expensive things using money you save.
Give me that. And where would you get this saved money?
The concepts of sacrificing and building for a better tomorrow have been pushed aside by our live for today, easy credit, and consumption-oriented society. Many Americans have never seen a rainy day and therefore simply choose not to save for one. This is a major problem because savings results in increased investment, additional research and development, a stronger economy, and an improvement in our overall standard of living. Is America's low savings rate today strictly a matter of personal choice, or are there also other forces at play here?
Dr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Greenspan. I understand that you did not take my friendly advice last fall. I thought maybe you should look for other employment, but I see you kept your job. Now, I'm pleased that you're back, though, because at least you remember the days of sound money. If you increase the supply of money, you have inflation. I know Wall Street likes it, and the economy likes it when the bubble's getting bigger, but I think it's harmful.
Inflation is very simple. When government arbitrarily, out of thin air, prints money, creates money and credit out of thin air. And when I talk to many teenagers, grade schoolers, they seem to have no problem comprehending the fact that if you just create a lot of money, it'll be like monopoly money and it won't have value.
Dr. Paul, you're raising an issue which a significant number of people have been raising over the years, and for which, frankly, we're not quite sure what the answers are.
America's central bank, the Federal Reserve, has two goals: stimulate economic growth and keep inflation low. But these goals can conflict. Under Alan Greenspan, the Fed fueled growth by holding down interest rates, indeed, cutting them 12 times in just 6 years. When it became so cheap to borrow, levels of debt rose, and so did inflationary pressures.
And for 3 years, you've never been once in the target range. You know, if I set my targets and I perform like that as a physician, my patient would die.
Is the gentleman finished?
I have talked to the heads of almost every single one of these firms in the last 72 hours, and he has no idea what it's like out there. None! My people have been in this game for 25 years, and they are losing their jobs, and these firms are going to go out of business, and he's nuts! They're nuts! They know nothing!
Kramer.
This is a different kind of market, and the Fed is asleep!
There are three types of Americans: those who save and invest, those who could easily save more but choose not to do so, and those for whom saving is very difficult. If Federal Reserve policy creates strong economic growth and keeps inflation low, everyone can benefit. However, if inflation rises, people who are less well off will suffer more. Americans must start to save again, and they need to invest those savings to help create a better future for themselves, their families, and our country. At the same time, Americans need to know that the money that they are saving will hold its value. Too much easy credit for too long can create a false sense of wealth.
I think I got it. I buy something I want and then hope that I can pay for it, right?
No. You make sure you have money, then you buy it.
Oh, then you buy it. But shouldn't you buy it before you have the money?
No.
Why not?
It's in the book. It's only 1 page long. The advice is priceless and the book is free.
Wow, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, we can put it on our credit card.
So get out of debt now. Write for your free copy of Don't Buy Stuff You Cannot Afford. And if you order now, you'll also receive Seriously, if you don't have the money, don't buy it.
When I say trade deficit, do you know what that means?
In 2007, China had the largest trade surplus in the world. And who was dead last? The United States of America. If you're buying more than you're selling, which is what a trade deficit is, eventually your trading partners are going to own a lot of your wealth. When they are not buying your goods and services with this money, they will be looking for ways to invest it. Running large and persistent trade imbalances can be problematic, especially when a country has a low savings rate and its government needs to borrow more money every year to pay its bills.
More savings out of income are required to finance the growing American economy. Savings bonds are one of the finest savings devices.
In the past, when we ran large budget deficits, our government turned to Americans to borrow that money.
The country has asked the people to invest $1 billion in 1 month to help pay for the war.
After World War II, virtually all of the federal debt was owed to Americans. Today, America increasingly depends on foreign lenders, but with what possible consequences? China, the new global economic superpower, is now set to have enormous influence over America. What scares a lot of Americans about China's growing prowess and the $1 trillion plus in foreign exchange reserves is a lot of that money is invested in U.S. Treasury bonds and in U.S. government debt. That kept U.S. interest rates low and house prices high and allowed the U.S. economy to continue to grow. A lot of people worry that somehow China is going to suddenly ask for its money back and walk away from the U.S. economy.
There have been reports that China may indeed start to liquidate some of their treasury holdings.
The Chinese are the second largest holder of U.S. treasuries.
$9 trillion of outstanding U.S. treasuries in total. China holds $400 billion of them.
And it's a huge amount of money.
It's so huge, Sue, it's called China's nuclear option, as you know, and that refers to financial, not ballistic weapons.
If you want to know how it works in Washington, basically, China gets what it wants. We're going to be increasingly dependent on China for our own economic health, so we're going to have to figure out a way to get along with them.
In the fall of 1956, the world was on the brink of a major international conflict. America's allies, Britain and France, were engaged in a battle against Egypt over control of the Suez Canal. The Soviet Union was threatening to intervene on the side of Egypt. America wanted to avoid military action at any cost and demanded that the British and French allies withdraw from the region. When their request was denied, the U.S. turned to financial warfare. America, which at that time owned much of Britain's debt, threatened to cut off credit to the UK.
So, as far as going into any kind of military action under present conditions, of course we're not.
This would have effectively destroyed Britain's currency. The result? All British and French military forces withdrew from the Suez region within weeks. Some historians consider this the exact moment that the British Empire ceased to exist. The largest slices of U.S. government debt.
If 15 or 20 years from now, 2 or 3% of the GDP is being paid abroad merely to service the debts or the ownership of assets that have been incurred because we're over-consuming, that will be political